The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Beings from 1,000 worlds sat in tiered seats, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few were just clouds of shimmering gas. But today, all eyes, stalks, and sensory organs were fixed on the central platform. High Counselor Zix, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, called for silence. The room fell quiet. "We are here," Zix said, his voice echoing, "to discuss a grave threat to our galactic peace. The humans of Earth." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A hologram of Earth appeared above the platform, spinning slowly. "They are primitive," Zix continued, "barely able to reach their own moon. But their potential for violence is unmatched. If they ever reach the stars, they could destroy everything we've built." The council members nodded and clicked in agreement. None of them noticed the small drone hiding in the shadows, recording everything. On Earth, in a cluttered lab at MIT, Dr. Aisha Khan yawned and stretched. The clock on the wall showed 3 a.m., but she couldn't sleep. Something in the data from her radio telescope didn't make sense. Aisha was young for a lid scientist, only 28, with dark skin, curly hair, and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. She had been working on the SETI project, searching for alien signals, for years. Most people thought it was a waste of time. But Aisha knew better. She took another sip of cold coffee and stared at her computer screen. The signal was there, hidden in the noise. It wasn't random. It had a pattern. "Holy shit," she whispered. "This is it." Her fingers flew over the keyboard, running the decryption program she had designed. Slowly, the alien symbols began to transform into English. Aisha's eyes widened as she read. "No," she said. "This can't be right." She grabbed her phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. Dr. James Chen was dreaming of fishing when his phone rang. He groaned and fumbled for it in the dark. "Hello," he mumbled. "James, it's Aisha. You need to come to the lab right now." James sat up, instantly awake. He had been Aisha's mentor for years, and he knew she wouldn't call at this hour unless it was important. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I found it, James. The signal. It's real. And it's about us. All of us. Earth is in danger." James felt a chill run down his spine. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. The lab was silent except for the hum of computers. Aisha and James huddled around the main screen, reading the decoded message again and again. "A galactic council," James said, shaking his head. "It sounds like science fiction." "I know," Aisha replied. "But the math checks out. The signal is coming from a star system 50 light-years away. And look at this part." She pointed to a section of the text. James read it aloud. "The humans must be contained. Their violent nature makes them too dangerous to join the galactic community. We will take action to ensure they never leave their solar system." James fell into a chair, his face pale. "They're going to attack us." Aisha nodded. "We need to warn people. The government, the UN, everyone." "Who's going to believe us?" James asked. "We'll sound crazy." Aisha's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we'll make them believe. We have the evidence. We can't just sit back and let Earth be destroyed." James looked at his former student, seeing the strength and courage in her face. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "Where do we start?" Aisha turned back to her computer. "First, we need to make sure this message gets out, no matter what happens to us. I'm going to upload everything to a secure server and set it to release to every major news outlet in 24 hours. As Aisha worked, James stared out the window at the night sky. The stars twinkled peacefully, giving no hint of the threat lurking among them. "I always wondered if we were alone in the universe," he said softly. "I never thought the answer would be like this." Aisha finished the upload and stood up. "We're not alone," she said, putting a hand on James's shoulder. "But we're not helpless either. Humanity has faced challenges before. We'll face this one too. Together, They walked out of the lab and into the cool night air. The fate of humanity now rested on their shoulders. The unseen threat was coming, but Earth would not go down without a fight. The sun was rising over Washington, D.C. as Aisha and James walked up the steps of the White House. They had been awake for 36 hours straight, fueled by coffee and fear. Security guards eyed them suspiciously. "Are you sure about this?" James whispered. Aisha nodded. "We have no choice. The world needs to know." They were met by a young aide in a crisp suit. He looked tired and annoyed. "The president is very busy," he said. "You have 5 minutes." The Oval Office was smaller than Aisha had imagined. The president, a tall woman with graying hair, sat behind her desk. She didn't look happy. "Dr. Khan, Dr. Chen," she said, "I hope this is important." Aisha took a deep breath. "Madam President, Earth is in danger. We've intercepted an alien transmission. The Galactic Council is planning to attack us." The room fell silent. The president stared at them, her face unreadable. "That's quite a claim," she said finally. "Do you have proof?" James handed her a tablet. "Everything's here. The signal, the decryption, the message. We've triple-checked everything." The president scrolled through the data, her frown deepening. "Even if this is real," she said, "we can't just announce that aliens are about to attack. It would cause panic." "With all due respect," Aisha said, her voice firm, "panic is better than extinction." The next 24 hours were chaos. The president called an emergency meeting of world leaders. NASA and other space agencies scrambled to verify the data. Military forces around the world went on high alert. Aisha and James barely slept, answering endless questions from scientists and government officials. But as the evidence mounted, denial turned to grim acceptance. At midnight, the president appeared on every TV channel and internet stream worldwide. "My fellow citizens of Earth," she began, her voice grave, "I come to you with news that will change our world forever." In New York City, Sam Chen watched the broadcast from his tiny apartment. His hand shook as he tried to call his parents. In Lagos, Nigeria, Oluwaseun Adebayo hugged her children close as neighbors poured into the streets, some crying, some praying. In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov drained a bottle of vodka and stared at the sky, wondering if he could see the alien ships coming. As dawn broke, the world was a different place. Social media exploded with theories and fears. Some people panicked, rushing to stores to stock up on supplies. Others refused to believe, calling it all a hoax. In London's Trafalgar Square, a crowd gathered, holding signs that read "Welcome Alien Overlords" and "Humanity First." A fight broke out between two groups. Meanwhile, in a secret military base, Aisha and James worked tirelessly with a team of international scientists. "We need to find a way to communicate with them," Aisha said, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "Maybe we can negotiate." James shook his head. "From what we've seen, they're not interested in talking. We need to prepare to defend ourselves." A general walked in, his face grim. "We've detected multiple objects entering the solar system," he said. "They'll reach Earth in less than a week." Aisha felt a chill run down her spine. It was really happening. In orbit, astronauts on the International Space Station watched in awe as strange lights appeared in the distance, growing closer by the hour. On the ground, militaries around the world mobilized. Ancient rivalries were set aside as humanity faced its greatest threat. In fields and backyards, people gathered to watch the sky, wondering what the future would hold. And in a small lab at MIT, now guarded by soldiers, a computer beeped. A new signal was coming through. Aisha rushed to decode it, her heart pounding. As the message appeared on the screen, her eyes widened. "James," she called. "You need to see this. It's not what we thought. The Galactic Council. They're not the only ones out there." James hurried over, reading the message with growing excitement. "Is this saying what I think it's saying?" he asked. Aisha nodded, a spark of hope in her eyes. We might have allies out there. The galaxy is more complicated than we thought. As they worked to understand the new message, Earth continued to spin, its people united in fear and determination. Humanity was awakening to a larger universe, one filled with both threats and possibilities. The next few days would determine the fate of the entire human race. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was a glimmer of hope. The world held its breath as the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They were massive, sleek vessels that gleamed in the sunlight. People watched in awe and terror from streets, rooftops, and windows. In the newly formed Earth Defense Force, EDF headquarters, Aisha and James stood before a wall of screens, each showing a different part of the world. "They're not attacking," James said, his voice tense. "What are they waiting for?" Aisha shook her head. "I don't know, but I don't like it." Suddenly, every screen went dark. The lights flickered and died. Outside, cars stopped in the streets. Phones fell silent. The world went quiet. "It's an EMP," Aisha gasped. "They're trying to disable our communications." The Galactic Council had made its first move. In New York City, Sam Chen stumbled through the dark streets. People were panicking, some looting stores. He heard a crash and saw a car had hit a lamppost. The driver looked dazed. Sam ran to help. "Are you okay?" he asked, pulling the door open. The driver nodded, then pointed at the sky. "Look!" Above them, the alien ships hung motionless, like dark clouds. Suddenly, beams of light shot down from them, sweeping across the city. In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo huddled with her children in their small home. The power was out, but she had prepared. She lit a kerosene lamp and tried to calm her kids. "It's okay," she said softly. "We're together. That's what matters." A loud boom shook the house. Oluwaseun peeked out the window. In the distance, she saw flashes of light. The Nigerian military was fighting back. At the EDF headquarters, chaos reigned. Backup generators kicked in, bringing some systems back online. Aisha and James worked frantically to restore communications. "We need to coordinate our defenses," James said, typing furiously. "If each country fights alone, we don't stand a chance." Aisha nodded, then paused. "Wait," she said. "Look at this." On one of the screens, a message was appearing. It wasn't in any human language. "It's from the friendly aliens," Aisha said, excitement in her voice. "They're trying to help us." In orbit, astronaut Maria Gonzalez watched in amazement as a new ship appeared. It was different from the others, more organic in shape. It positioned itself between Earth and the Galactic Council ships. Maria's radio crackled to life. "This is Captain Zaruk of the Free Worlds Alliance," a voice said in accented English. "We're here to help." Back on Earth, something strange was happening. In cities around the world, old radios and TV sets sparked to life. They broadcast a message in every language. "People of Earth, do not give up hope. You are not alone. The Free Worlds Alliance stands with you against the Galactic Council's tyranny. Your resilience has inspired us. Together, we can win this fight." In the streets of Moscow, Dmitry Volkov heard the message on an old radio. He felt a surge of hope. "We're not done yet," he muttered, heading towards the local police station. Time to fight back. At EDF headquarters, Aisha and James worked with their new alien allies to counter the Galactic Council's technology. Their EMP was strong. Zaruk's voice came through a hastily rigged communicator. "But your planet's magnetic field protected some of your tech. We can help you restore the rest." James grinned. "I always knew Earth's molten core would come in handy someday." Aisha laughed, then turned serious. "We need to act fast. The Council ships are starting to move." Around the world, humans showed their true colors. In New York, Sam organized his neighbors to help the injured and scared. In Lagos, Oluwaseun turned her home into a shelter, sharing her supplies with others. The EDF coordinated with militaries worldwide. Guided by the Free Worlds Alliance, they found ways to bring weapons systems back online. As the sun set, the first human counterattack began. Fighter jets rose to meet the alien ships. On the ground, people cheered as they saw the contrails in the sky. The battle for Earth had truly begun. Despite the fear and destruction, there was a new feeling in the air. Determination, unity, and the realization that humanity was capable of far more than anyone, including themselves, had ever imagined. In the EDF command center, Aisha and James watched the first missiles streak towards the Galactic Council ships. "Think we have a chance?" James asked. Aisha nodded, her eyes gleaming. "More than a chance. We have something they didn't expect." "What's that?" She smiled. Each other. The skies over Earth were ablaze with light. Human fighter jets, guided by Free Worlds Alliance technology, engaged the Galactic Council ships in fierce dogfights. The sound of explosions echoed across cities and oceans. In the EDF headquarters, Aisha and James worked tirelessly. They had been awake for days, fueled by adrenaline and strong coffee. "We've got something," James shouted suddenly. On the main screen, a small Galactic Council scout ship was spiraling towards the ground, trailing smoke. Aisha grabbed her jacket. "Let's go. This is our chance to study their tech up close." The crash site was a chaos of twisted metal and strange, glowing substances. Soldiers had already secured the area. As Aisha and James approached, they saw something moving in the wreckage. "Careful," a soldier warned. "The alien pilot is still alive." The alien stumbled out of the ship. It was tall and spindly, with 4 arms and gray skin. Its large eyes blinked in the sunlight. To everyone's surprise, it spoke in broken English. "Please, no harm. I surrender." Aisha stepped forward. "We won't hurt you. We need information. Will you help us?" The alien hesitated, then nodded. "Council, wrong about humans. You fight well. Maybe you deserve chance." In New York, Sam Chen had become a local hero. He organized a network of volunteers to distribute food and medical supplies. As he helped an old woman with her groceries, he looked up at the battle raging in the sky. "Never thought I'd see anything like this," the woman said. Sam smiled. "Never thought we'd all come together like this either." Maybe aliens were what we needed to realize we're all just human. In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo had turned her small electronics repair shop into a hub for modifying old radios to receive EDF broadcasts. People crowded around, hungry for news. "They say we've captured one of their ships," someone shouted. The crowd cheered. Oluwaseun felt a surge of pride. "See," she told her children, "this is why we never give up." Back at EDF headquarters, Aisha and James led a team of scientists in studying the captured scout ship. The alien pilot, who called himself Sen, provided crucial information. "Council ships have weakness," Sen explained. "Energy shield fluctuates every 6.2 Earth minutes. Brief window to attack." James grinned. "That's our way in. We need to coordinate a global strike." Aisha nodded, but looked troubled. "The timing has to be perfect. If we miss, we won't," James said firmly. "Humanity's good at beating the odds." In orbit, astronaut Maria Gonzalez worked with the Free Worlds Alliance to convert the International Space Station into a command center. She marveled at how quickly humans and aliens learned to work together. "Ready for the next phase?" Captain Zarok asked. Maria nodded. "Let's show the Council what Earth can do." Around the world, people prepared for the counterattack. In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov led a team of hackers using recovered alien tech to bolster Earth's cyber defenses. In Antarctica, scientists repurposed research stations to track Council ship movements. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes used their deep knowledge of the land to hide crucial EDF equipment. Every human, in their own way, contributed to the fight. As the planned attack approached, Aisha addressed the global EDF forces. Her face was broadcast on screens worldwide. "Today, we show the galaxy what humans are made of," she said. "We're not just fighting for our planet. We're fighting for our right to exist, to grow, to reach the stars on our own terms." She paused, looking at each camera. "The Galactic Council thought we were savages. Let's show them we're survivors." A cheer went up around the world. Pilots climbed into jets enhanced with alien tech. Gunners manned weapons that, days ago, would have seemed like science fiction. In New York, Sam Chen hugged his neighbors, then took his place at a makeshift command post. In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo kissed her children, then joined the local defense force. In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov cracked his knuckles and prepared to launch the most important cyber attack of his life. And in EDF headquarters, Aisha and James shared a look of determination. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. Aisha took a deep breath and gave the order. "All forces, commence Operation Earthrise." The greatest counterattack in human history began. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity wasn't just tough. They were unstoppable. High above Earth, the Galactic Council's main ship buzzed with activity. Alarms blared as reports flooded in from all corners of the planet. High Counselor Zix stared at the holographic displays in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. "How are they doing this?" A junior officer approached nervously. "Sir, the humans. They've adapted our technology. They're using it against us." Zix slammed his four hands on the control panel. They were supposed to be primitive, easy to contain. Just then, a massive explosion rocked the ship. The shields flickered and died. "Sir," the officer said, "they've breached our defenses." For the first time in his long life, Zix felt fear. On Earth, cheers erupted as news of the successful attack spread. In the EDF headquarters, Aisha and James high-fived. "It worked," James shouted. The timing was perfect. Aisha grinned but quickly refocused. "This is just the beginning. We need to press our advantage." Suddenly, a new signal appeared on their screens. It wasn't from Earth or the Free Worlds Alliance. "More Council ships?" James asked worriedly. Aisha shook her head, her eyes wide. "No, it's coming from inside the Council fleet." In New York, Sam Chen was helping coordinate civilian evacuations when the sky lit up with a brilliant flash. He looked up to see a Galactic Council ship explode in a shower of sparks. "Did we do that?" someone asked. Sam squinted at the sky. "I don't think so." In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo was treating wounded soldiers when her radio crackled to life. "This is Captain Zaruk of the Free Worlds Alliance," a familiar voice said. "Be advised, a faction within the Galactic Council has turned against their leaders. They're fighting on our side now." Oluwaseun laughed in disbelief. "Even the aliens are impressed by us," she told a smiling patient. Back in the Council's main ship, chaos reigned. Zix watched in horror as nearly half his fleet turned their weapons on their former allies. "Traitors!" he screamed. "Why are you doing this?" A hologram appeared before him. It showed a council member Zix recognized. "Laura, from the peaceful Andromeda sector." "We were wrong about the humans, Zix," Laura said. "They're not a threat to the galaxy. They might be its salvation." Zix sputtered in rage. "They're violent, unpredictable." Laura nodded. "Yes, but they're also innovative, adaptable, and surprisingly kind. They took in our damaged ships, treated our wounded. They showed mercy when we gave them none." She paused, her eyes hard. "The real threat to the galaxy is us, Zix. Our fear, our arrogance. It's time for a change." The hologram winked out, leaving Zix alone with his crumbling plans. In orbit, astronaut Maria Gonzalez watched in awe as the Council fleet tore itself apart. "I never thought I'd feel sorry for the aliens trying to wipe us out," she said. Captain Zaruk, floating beside her, nodded. "War makes fools of us all. But peace, Peace takes true courage. As the battle raged, more and more council ships switched sides. Those still loyal to Zix found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered. In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov and his team of hackers seized the opportunity. They broke into the Council's communication systems, broadcasting a message to every ship. To all Galactic Council forces, humanity offers peace. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Continue to fight, and you will fall. The choice is yours. In the EDF headquarters, Aisha and James watched as Council ships began to power down their weapons. "They're surrendering," James said, his voice filled with wonder. "We actually did it." Aisha nodded, tears in her eyes. Not just us, everyone. All of humanity working together. A cheer went up in the control room. Similar scenes played out around the world as news of the victory spread. But Aisha knew their work was far from over. "The real challenge starts now," she said. "We need to prove we deserve our place in the galaxy." James smiled. "If anyone can do it, it's us. After all, we're only human." As the sun rose on a new day, Earth celebrated not just its survival, but its emergence onto the galactic stage. The Galactic Council's attempt to contain humanity had backfired spectacularly. Instead of being contained, humanity had broken free, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The skies above Earth were a spectacular light show. Laser beams crisscrossed the atmosphere, while explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. It was beautiful and terrifying. In the EDF headquarters, Aisha and James worked frantically. The tide had turned in humanity's favor, but High Counselor Zix wasn't giving up. "He's gathering his remaining loyal ships for one last attack," James said, pointing at the main screen. Aisha nodded grimly. "This is it, the final battle." In New York, Sam Chen led a group of civilians to a makeshift shelter. As they hurried through the streets, a massive shadow fell over them. Sam looked up to see a Galactic Council ship, larger than any before, descending from the clouds. "That's not good," he muttered. In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo was coordinating with local defense forces when her radio crackled. "This is EDF Command." Aisha's voice came through. "Zix is leading a final assault. All units prepare for heavy engagement." Oluwaseun took a deep breath. "Copy that," she replied. "Lagos is ready." In orbit, astronaut Maria Gonzalez and Captain Zaruk of the Free Worlds Alliance watched as Zix's flagship approached Earth. "It's a dreadnought," Zaruk said, his voice filled with awe and fear. "I've never seen one outside of historical records." Maria's jaw set determinedly. "Well, it's about to become history again." On the ground, in cities and towns across the world, humans prepared for the fight of their lives. In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov and his team of hackers worked tirelessly to breach the dreadnought systems. "It's like trying to crack a quantum supercomputer with an abacus," Dmitry grumbled. But they didn't give up. No one did. In the EDF headquarters, Aisha had an idea. "James," she said excitedly, "remember the weapon we were working on? The one based on the scout ship's tech?" James's eyes widened. "The phase disruptor. But it's not ready. We haven't tested it yet." Aisha grinned. No time like the present. High above, Zix's dreadnought began its attack. Massive energy beams lanced down, carving furrows in the Earth's surface. But humanity fought back. Jets swarmed the giant ship like angry bees, while ground-based weapons fired constantly. In New York, Sam watched in horror as a beam struck nearby, vaporizing a skyscraper. "We need a miracle," he whispered. In the EDF's secret lab, Aisha and James rushed to finish the phase disruptor. It was a hodgepodge of human and alien tech, held together with hope and determination. "If this works," James said, "it'll create a localized disruption in the fabric of space-time." Aisha nodded. "And if it doesn't?" James shrugged. "Then I guess we won't be around to worry about it." As the battle raged, the dreadnought seemed unstoppable. Its shields shrugged off every attack. Cities around the world lay in ruins. In Lagos, Oluwaseun rallied her troops. "We've come too far to give up now," she shouted over the din of battle. In Moscow, Dmitri's fingers flew over his keyboard. Come on," he muttered. And in orbit, Maria and Zaruk coordinated the space-based defense, trying desperately to find a weakness in the dreadnought's armor. Back in the lab, Aisha and James finished their work. "It's done," Aisha said, looking at the strange device before them. "But how do we get it to the dreadnought?" James smiled grimly. "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." Minutes later, James was in a modified fighter jet, the phase disruptor strapped to his seat. Aisha's voice came through his radio. "This is crazy," she said. "You know that, right?" "Crazy is what we do best," James replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. He took off, heading straight for the dreadnought. On the massive ship's bridge, Six watched with satisfaction as Earth burned. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Sir," an officer shouted, "a single fighter is approaching. It's on a collision course." Six's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. No one would be that foolish. But James was that foolish, and that brave. His jet streaked towards the dreadnought, dodging energy beams and debris. At the last moment, he activated the phase disruptor and ejected. There was a blinding flash of light. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, impossibly, a hole opened in the dreadnought's hull. It spread quickly, the massive ship seeming to fold in on itself. In the blink of an eye, the dreaded flagship of the Galactic Council vanished, leaving nothing but stunned silence in its wake. The final battle was over. Humanity had won. The sun rose on a changed Earth. The skies, once filled with battling ships, were now quiet. In cities around the world, people emerged from shelters, blinking in the light of a new day. In New York, Sam Chen stood in the middle of a debris-filled street, staring at the empty sky. "We did it," he whispered. "We actually did it." In the EDF headquarters, Aisha sat at her desk, her eyes red from lack of sleep. A knock at the door made her look up. James walked in, his arm in a sling, but a grin on his face. "You're alive," Aisha cried, jumping up to hug him. James winced but laughed. "Can't get rid of me that easily, though I might think twice before volunteering for any more suicide missions." Their laughter was interrupted by a beeping from the main console. A message was coming in from the Galactic Council. In Lagos, Oluwaseun Adebayo gathered with her neighbors around a crackling radio. The whole world was listening as the message was broadcast globally. "People of Earth," a voice said in slightly accented English. "This is Laura, acting head of the Galactic Council. We surrender unconditionally." A cheer went up from the crowd. Oluwaseun hugged her children, tears in her eyes. In orbit, astronaut Maria Gonzalez and Captain Zaruk of the Free Worlds Alliance watched as the remaining Galactic Council ships powered down their weapons. "I never thought I'd see this day," Zaruk said, his voice filled with wonder. Maria smiled. "Never underestimate humanity." In Moscow, Dmitry Volkov and his team of hackers were busy, not with cyber attacks this time, but with establishing new communication channels across the galaxy. "Who would have thought," Dmitry mused, "that our first extraterrestrial email would be a peace treaty?" As the days passed, the true scale of humanity's victory became clear. The Galactic Council, once the supreme power in the galaxy, had been dissolved. In its place, a new alliance was forming, one that included Earth as a key member. Aisha and James found themselves at the center of this new galactic order. They were chosen to lead Earth's first diplomatic mission to the stars. On the day of their departure, crowds gathered to see them off. San was there, waving a homemade Earth, galactic superpower sign. Oluwaseun had brought her whole family, her children's eyes wide with excitement. Dmitry stood at the back, trying to look nonchalant but unable to hide his grin. As Aisha and James boarded the sleek spaceship, a marvel of combined human and alien technology, they paused to look back at their home planet. "Ready for this?" James asked. Aisha nodded, "Ready as we'll ever be." The journey to the galactic capital took weeks, but finally they arrived. The city was a wonder of impossible architecture and alien beauty. As they stepped off their ship, they were greeted by a diverse group of beings from across the galaxy. Laura, the new head of the Galactic Alliance, stepped forward. She was tall and graceful, with shimmering blue skin. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," she said. "We have much to discuss." The negotiations were long and complex. Earth had to navigate a web of galactic politics it was only beginning to understand. But Aisha and James were surprised to find that humanity's perspective was valued. Their creativity, their ability to think outside the box, was seen as an asset. "You've shown us that there's always another way," Laura said during one session. "That's something this galaxy sorely needed." Months later, Aisha and James stood on a balcony overlooking the galactic capital. In the distance, ships from 100 worlds zipped between glittering towers. "Did you ever imagine this?" James asked, gesturing at the alien cityscape. Aisha shook her head. "Never. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We never know what's possible until we try." James nodded. "So, what's next for humanity?" Aisha grinned, her eyes on the stars above. "Everything, James. Everything is next." As night fell on the galactic capital, Earth's representatives continued their work. They had protected their home, but now they had a whole galaxy to explore, new friends to make, and a future brighter than they had ever dreamed possible. Humanity had not just survived. They had thrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again.